Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We're going to do something cool today and give you something to think about that can really show your personality, maybe show your future, maybe give some clarity for you in general, and that's using numerology. We are going to tell you how to figure out what your, I guess it's your birth name. I'm not really sure what we call this. What is this called, Sarah?
Well, in my book, The Path of a Wounded Healer, Liberation is for the Asking, the chapter is called The Sacred Oracle Word, which is your birth certificate name.
Okay. Which reveals a lot about you. And she knows this because she practices Egyptian numerology. She's Sara Bachmeier, and she's back with us. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Steve.
So tell us, you two, tell us about what this is, the sacred oracle word of our birth name. What does this all mean?
Well, in charting with numerology and Egyptian numerology, we work with your birth date and your birth name. Your birth date can tell us your soul urge, your day of birth, your gifts, abilities, and talents, your soul life path, the direction that you chose to journey in this lifetime, the karmic lessons that you came here to learn, and your life purpose, what you're meant to do in this lifetime. And your birth name, I kind of have it as a separate category, tells us about the vowels in your birth certificate name is called your heart's desire, and the consonants in your birth certificate name is your personality that you chose to your persona in this lifetime. And then we add those two together, and the total comes out to what your destiny is in this lifetime. So it tells us a little bit different information than our birth date. In my book, I actually took some notes from the book because it speaks so eloquently, stumble on my words, about Pythagoras, how this all came about with Pythagoras, when he learned, I guess, through his studies in the mystery schools, that numbers have vibrations, characteristics, personalities. And so there's a study of how our names are chosen usually by our mother. And it is connected to intuitively, like our birth date is not chosen for us. We're born when we're born, but our names are chosen for us by our parents or our caretakers, primary caretakers, or whoever names us, our grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's nothing random about that we contracted before birth to carry certain frequencies and vibrations in our name. And that information is intuitively passed on to the mother or whoever chose to name us in this lifetime. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
I want to pop in a question
or
get your feedback on this. Now, our birth date not chosen for us, or maybe it is, but not, by us.
Cesareans, yeah.
well, yeah, but I wasn't even referring to that. I mean, the universe made that decision when you're born. When it comes to your name, obviously it's your given name. However, some believe, and I love your feedback on this, that we choose our parents, we choose our mom. So it's kind of an interesting look at both sides there, right?
It is, and it's all in alignment with what we chose, what our soul life contract is. So we choose our parents, we choose where we're going to be born. We choose our nationality, our religion, traditions, where we're born, everything. And so it just, again, goes in alignment with whoever we chose to be our primary caretakers, because sometimes it's not our parents. Um, that is all contracted before we're born. Isn't that something?
It is. It
And,
is. And,
and
there are some that could be listening now or watching and saying, yeah, okay. Um, but it's, whatever you want to believe. However, there are some that believe, and in my journey and in my studying and talking to people like you, that we are a spiritual being in a human vessel. This is just a shell. This is not, the spirit is the most important part of it. Um, so then it could be reasonable that we chose to be, that person, or in that body on that date with those parents. Your thoughts on all of that? I know we're kind of pivoting a little bit, but I'd be curious to, and
that's
I want to
okay.
definitely talk about
Well,
how
the
to
first,
calculate in a moment.
right. I'm sorry. So what was the question about? Oh, it being
Yeah,
we're
we're
spirit
spiritual,
first
right?
before.
Yes.
Absolutely. And in my book, I have that our names give us power to balance our physical and spiritual bodies, awakening our highest abilities and potential. And we use our names for energy, beauty, power, love, and prosperity. And these words have unlimited possibilities. So, who is it? I think it's Ted Andrews, wrote a book about sound. And he has a chapter in his book about how important the sound is in our names, the vowels and the consonants. Actually, I think I even got a lot of inspiration on when I wrote about it in my book. Um, just how, I mean, we think our
Hmm.
names are just names, but they represent us on a spiritual level through the sound, through our vowels and consonants that we use. Um, so, does that kind of answer your question?
It does. It does. And it actually leads to another question. I swear we're going to talk about how to calculate the meaning of your birth name in terms of numerology. But now that we talk about that being our given name, I'm going to try and phrase this question to make sense. Not that I'm going too deep here. I don't think this is deep for you at all. But our parents give us that name. Do we live up to that name, or are we given that name? Is that name come by coincidence, or is there meaning behind it that the universe kind of brought it to our parents to use that name?
Right. And so again, in my book, I have it sectioned off your what your first name represents, what your middle name represents, and your last name. So it really kind of gets into um, if you read that and you understand the frequency, the energy of your name,
Mm.
then you can kind of compare to see how you are spiritually. And it's the same with your birth date, with your life path. I mean, are you living up to your full potential um, with the frequency of your name, your first, middle, and last name? Or do you have some work to do? So you can kind of, when you get into it and look into the meaning of your name and the vibration and energy of your name, you can kind of see, you know,
Mm.
what who you are developing into, who you have developed into, and who you can develop into using that frequency. So it does.
I swear we're
It
going to
can
get to
get
all of this,
very
but
deep.
it does. But I'm Sarah. Thank you very much for bringing up the fact that your name is energy. It's not just letters. There's a deeper meaning behind it in the energy, in the sound. A sound is energy too, vibration. When you say your name, You are vibrating something by saying that name. Final question, and then we're going to move on to calculating the meaning of your name. I promise.
You can save it to last.
No, I'm going to get to it. What comes first? It's like the chicken or the egg. Does your name come first and you follow your traits, all of the things that you're talking about, follows the name that you're given, or is it the other way around? Is that
That's a
making
good,
sense?
yeah, that's a really good question. I think that the energy of our name guides us to be who we are, um,
Okay.
to reflect who we are. It cannot not, because like our first name's our social name, and that's how we present ourselves socially to the outside world, how we're accepted. And so you can look vibrationally in numerology to see what that attracts to you. And I think that your soul in this lifetime wants to represent itself through the energy of your name.
Okay.
And so it's kind of a gift. Your name's kind of a gift because it brings to you, with no effort whatsoever, attracts to you the energy that you asked to be attracted to in this lifetime. Now, your name in a past lifetime was completely different and probably a whole different
Mhm.
numerical energy. And in your next life, it'll be a different energy. It all depends on what you came here to vibrate on, what you came here to learn and attract. So I hope that answers your
It does.
question. I
And
can get off on a total different tangent.
one more question. One more question.
Okay.
What if you don't have the most desirable name? What about if your name is Bucky Dorkelman or what, something very people make fun of, or, it's not the most glamorous name. I got lucky. My last name really is Harper. It sounds like a made up radio name, but it's not. Um, but what if you don't have a name that people respect, if you will? And I know I'm jumping down a rabbit hole for a moment here, but what are your thoughts on that? Does that change who
Well,
you are?
no, when I calculate people's name, some people, because of that reason, because their first name's undesirable or it just doesn't feel like them, will use their middle name as their first name. And so, how does that change or
Yeah.
alter your direction in life? And when I chart somebody's numerology chart, I always work with the birth certificate name, not the primary name that they use now, although that is important, it's secondary. But the primary is always going to be your birth certificate name, the energy of that. And then it won't change. I can do the numerology of the primary, the name change, which will also help you see
Hmm.
how you have asked the world to see you in a different vibration than what you were born with. But in truth, your destiny is always going to be calculated and understood through your birth certificate name.
Gotcha. Okay. Uh, Now I'm going to ask that question. I have a pen in hand. How do you calculate the meaning of your name?
It's called when you change the numeric version to the alphabet. It's called arithmancy. It's a process of changing the letters to a numeric vibration. And so like there's charts that tell you how to do it. And I think different types of numerology might alter this chart. The Chaldean, I'm not sure, might have a different chart, depends on which one. This is the Pythagorean chart that I use, and it's the most popular in traditional numerology. And so each letter represents a number, and it's easy. You can just go like A is number one, B is
Right.
number two, and go all the way up to the number 9 and then start back over to the number 1. So it would go A is number 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, go all the way 9, and then you start over with the number 1 after the 9. And so when you do that with the whole alphabet, you can see the arithmancy of what you're going to use to
Hmm.
find out what your vibration is, your energetic vibration in your name and the middle name and the last name.
It seems pretty simple to calculate it. I'm wondering if there's a difference between the vowels and consonants.
Um, so the meaning of the vowels are it is. I have a whole system. When I calculate a name, I put the vowels. You want to separate the consonants from the vowels. So I put the numbers of the vowels underneath the name and the consonants, the numbers for the consonants above. And so when I always add the vowels first and get my total because that's going to signify what we call your heart's desire.
Huh.
And the consonants of your name is your personality, the personality that you chose. So it's a 3-step. It's the
Wow.
vowels, the consonants, and then the total of both. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so this is something that somebody can figure out, but honestly, all of this stuff, I leave it to the trained professional. It just gets too deep. Tell me what it means. So again, I think you address the name changes. So if you change your name from your birth certificate name, like are we talking about, if it's a name change legally, how does that go?
Doesn't matter. Whatever name you were born with that's on your birth certificate name is the name that we always use
Okay.
to calculate. So I know a lot of people want a name change. This is so funny. A lot of people want their name changed in order to attract more love, prosperity, fame. They don't think that, and they think that if they change the vibration of their name, they're going to attract that numbers have good and bad aspects to them. But I've talked about this before in Egyptian numerology that there is no bad numbers. So
Hmm.
you wouldn't necessarily change your name. What you would want to attract love and prosperity and fame. What you want to do is understand your name as it's an original form in your birth certificate name and find out what it is in that vibration that you're not doing to
Okay.
attract what you want. Because just changing your name isn't going to guarantee fame. I mean, some people don't believe that. They believe that yes, if I have the number 8, I'm going to have money in my because it's an abundance number, and if I have the number 2, I'm going to be balanced in my romance, attract romance, and number 3 is for fame, and but any number can attract whatever you desire once you understand the meaning of the name, why you chose the name, and what it is about yourself that you need to understand and maybe change in order to attract the things that you want. So it's a lot easier to work with the energy that you already have than it is to change it.
Is it entirely possible that you use a different name than your birth certificate name, but in essence, your birth certificate name may be a better one to be using just because of the way the numerology brings out whatever's there. You may be doing yourself a disservice by changing your name or going by a different name.
Exactly. And I've
Okay.
really only met one person that I totally agreed with their name change
Oh, really?
vibrationally. And that's only because they spiritually knew who they were and what they and why they're here. And because of that knowledge, and they completely worked through and were in alignment with their birth certificate name and decided that they wanted to try a new energy.
Gotcha.
How that worked for them in the long run, I'm not really sure because I'm out of touch.
Right.
But I understood and I wasn't in agreement with the vibration that she changed to. Um,
If
so yeah, I always recommend that people work with their birth certificate energy, and because there's so much there, and
Mhm.
I've never had it not answer the questions that people had
Well, you
about
bring up a
themselves.
great point in your experience of going by your birth certificate name and what you just said, that you've it's rare to find a situation where using another name is a better situation. It supports people better to use their birth certificate name. Now, my name, what does that come out to? What I want to use me as an
Well,
example.
Steve comes out to the number 8, and Harper is the number 3. No, is it? I'm sorry. Um, oh yeah, it is the number 3. And so when
I'm
you
going to say
add the
something.
8 and the 3, it's going to be 11.
So wait, I want to tell you something. I believe my life path number for my date of birth is 11.
Right.
And I want to share with you. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm blown
Oh,
away that
that's
it's
okay.
I'm not I'm not surprised that it's 11, but 11 recently keeps coming up for me in many different ways. And even I think I shared with you some crazy number situations, and they all come back to 7 or 11. And even my father's date of birth and his passing come up, if you add the numbers together and you play around with them, come up to 7 or 11. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. But I had no idea that I would be in 11, based on the calculation there. Hmm. What does it mean? What does 11 mean?
Well, you have a middle name that we did not add into that because we're looking at Steve Harper as your business name.
Sure.
So the I liked this when I looked it up. It is in my book. So the number 8 is represents business, being energetic, communication, abundance, and caution. And then it has several paragraphs that describe it. The number of 3, which is your last name, is represents being social, expression, intuitive, creative, and joyful. And adding them all together is the number 11, which is intuitive, creative. It's also a healer number, psychic, and awareness.
I'm not going to say this just because we're together, but that's me. And even the Steve has supported me in terms of my career in
Right.
every way that you just mentioned. And that's already in the book. It's not like you just said, all right, well, the guy Steve's here. So communication and blah, 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 blah. No, it's already there. It's published in your book. Um, and which is based on principles from, I'm sure, way back. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And funny with the number 11 showing up all the time. Again, I haven't put the pieces together there, but even my address, and I moved last year. If you add up the 3 numbers in my address, my street address, it's 11. It's just kind of weird. I don't
Right.
know why 11 keeps showing up for me. My
What's
dad
it?
passed away on the 11th. Uh, and you can't make that up.
No, you can't. And the fact
Hmm.
that you're aware of it is what is a sign all of itself. It's a synchronicity, it's a sign, and it's also a symbol of your awareness to your higher purpose.
Hmm.
Not everybody is aware and aligned with that, and they wouldn't see the synchronicity in all this if you weren't aware, you wouldn't have been this wouldn't have come up.
I'm not looking. I'm not looking to find something. I'm just looking. But those numbers keep coming up. Even my mom's date of birth, if you add the first two numbers, actually, I'm sorry, if you add the two numbers that she was born on, so the year, take out the 19, that comes out to 11 as well. And I'm sure if I gave you all that, all the dates and everything, would probably there'd be maybe some correlation. But I'm amused and somewhat fascinated that you said 11. I had no idea that it was going to come out to that. But even short
I
of
was a
that,
little surprised too.
weird. But even the fact that the description of the first and last name, I can't say it doesn't fit me because it does. And I'm not trying to say that. I'm pushing this point. It does. It's cool.
Right.
Which shows
So
that
I
there's
guess a
something here.
question would be, are you the way that you are because of your name?
Great question. That's probably the $1 million question right here. Am I? I don't know. What do you say?
Or does it represent you so well and you're in alignment with your purpose? So it will make sense to you and you will recognize your alignment with it. Now, people that are not in alignment with their name, with the energy of their name,
Hmm.
will struggle, um, either that they don't feel that they deserve the vibration that they were born into, they don't appreciate it, they're not aware of their life purpose yet. But when somebody does come and want to know the meaning of their name, then that triggers to me that they are ready to hear the information.
I guess it goes back
And
to the chicken or the egg. Which comes
exactly,
first? Yeah. Um,
exactly.
hmm. Or I
I
guess
get
it's whatever
I
you
get
want
a
to
lot of
believe.
people that when I do readings where it's either an aha moment or they thank me for the confirmation because they always wondered if they were in alignment with their purpose and their path. And they're just so grateful to have be able to speak with somebody about it, just to get that confirmation that you're right where you're supposed to be.
Hmm. I'd have
It
to
seems to
say,
be gold.
Sarah, I'd have to say, based on what you calculated there, that there's my confirmation. I have to tell you, that was really cool.
Doesn't that
Um,
feel good?
it does. It's confirmation and also validation. Validation for the number 11. There's something there with that number in me. And 11 is my life path number, according to your calculation, if I remember correctly. Um,
Yes.
and what's the final thing here? The 11 in the life path number is different than your birth name number, right? It has two different meanings, or do they align in some ways?
Like I have the same path, purpose, and destiny, master number 11.
Do you really?
And
You're an 11?
yeah, I do. I
Wow.
am. I'm in my life path, my purpose, and my destiny are all master numbers 11. And so yeah, 11 is really precious to me too. And when I see it, I feel like I'm in alignment with it, whatever it is. But the one thing I do want to say is that with women, um, they normally change their name
Uh,
to their husband's name. And so, and when you do that, you change your destiny to your husband's destiny, when you change your name like that. So, I mean, it would be more accurate to hyphen it to
really?
keep her birth name, last name, and hyphen, and then use the husband's last
Wow.
name, just for numeric reasons and for energetic reasons, so that she doesn't get lost pursuing her husband's hereditary karma, and
Mm,
she keeps her own, because the last name is our hereditary name that's passed down from
sure.
our ancestors. We don't choose that. That's handed down from
Right.
generation to generation. So
Well,
I just wanted to throw that in, because
no,
that's usually a question that I get.
that's a great point, and thank you for bringing that up. I totally forgot about that. That when we change names, it in for women happens very often. Based on what you said about my last name, I'm going to text my ex and tell her you're welcome. And especially so since her maiden name is like 58 letters, so I shortened it down to much less. How do we learn more about all of this, Sarah? How do we do that?
Well, I have a book, The Path of a Wounded Healer, Liberation is for the Asking. And that has the whole chapter on the sacred oracle word about the arithmancy of your birth name. And also information off my website at www.egyptiannumerology.org. You can learn more that way.
Wow, fascinating talking with you today. Thank you for making it very easy and understandable. Um, I'm surprised we didn't tackle this sooner, because this is and I'm glad we did now. It's such a big thing in terms of determining your destiny, your path, who you are. I'm going to say it again, right on target with me. And I'm not trying
Okay.
to find something. It is, you describe me. Even if you just said, all right there, Steve, this is who you are, and didn't tell me that you did any kind of numerology, I'd say, well, how did you know that? Even if we just met on the street. Even if you knew my name in advance, you calculated it, and we met on the street, I'd say the same exact thing. Like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Thank
Good.
you.
I'm glad.
Thank you so much for
You're
being here.
welcome.
Totally enjoyed
You're
it.
welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll be right
Bye-bye.
back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.